Hello everyone. Thought I would just check in. I weirdly think to do this like every December. I have no idea why Decembers just call to me to have a conversation, but I think I definitely owe everybody sort of an explanation for this year and how it turned out. As you saw in the header, there's been some crazy stuff happening in my life, and I trying to figure out a way to explain that without melting down, but we'll see how that goes. So this year started with a really great plan. I had all these ideas and I had this really positive outlook for how things were going to go. And I had just finished, I had a friend who had breast cancer diagnosed in 2020, and I had been part of her medical support team, and we were to the last surgery the first week of January, and we were sitting in the hospital talking about how everything was going to be so much better. And toward the end of January, I get a call from my mom letting me know that she's been admitted to the hospital. She had to go to the emergency room because she's yellow, bright yellow, like a daisy or like a sunflower. And over this course of a week that she's in the hospital, they run a lot of tests, they do a lot of things. I won't go into all those details. But during this, toward the end of her hospital stay, she is informed that she has pancreatic cancer. Very little preparation for that. The person that told her had no explanation, just basically said, "You know you have pancreatic cancer, right?" So it was a lot of sort of overwhelming. My mom's health had been good up until that point. I mean, as good as it could be. She has some health conditions, some health issues, but things have been going well. It had been stabilized. And so my sister and I rushed out to go take care of her and to set up appointments and to get more tests done, because of course they want 10 billion tests, and to help her and to get her back on her feet, and several procedures go through. We meet with an oncologist who tells us point blank that there is nobody in my mother's city that can take care of pancreatic cancer, that it is a very specialized thing, and that we will need to find someone. If it were up to her, she would go somewhere else. So my sister and I decide to bring my mother from her home to Texas, move her here essentially for 9 to 12 months to live with my sister because she has an extra room, and to basically, what steps are we going to do next? So it's a panic call. I think I called in every favor I've ever tried to call in. I used every voice, every legal voice, because I am a lawyer on the other side of this, and every kind, cajoling voice to get people to take her and to get her into oncology appointments, which I don't know, those of you who've dealt with cancer know that oncology appointments are about 6 weeks to 2 months out. And if you're dealing with pancreatic cancer, which moves very rapidly, you want an appointment within a week or less, a day if you can get it. So I managed to get a whole team set up, get her in. They too were in quite a panic to get her into treatment as soon as possible. And so 1 week after she arrived here, she was in chemo. So every 2 weeks, chemo. She has a whole day of infusion, 6 hours, and a doctor's visit and blood work, and then she goes home with an infuser for 2 days, and then goes back on the 3rd day and gets it taken out. We do multiple chemos. We have another CT scan. She's a surgical candidate. Really great, because apparently in pancreatic cancer, I've learned a lot about it since this started. There are those that are surgical candidates and there are those that are not. So my mother had clear margins. The CT scan showed that she was going to do well in surgery, so we scheduled surgery, stayed with her in the hospital. She was in for many days because it's a big surgery. It's actually the biggest surgery that is ever done on the human body. And so get her out, and she goes back to chemo again every 2 weeks. So I imagine that every 2 weeks for the last 9 months, a little over 9 months, I have had 3 to 4 days taken out of my life every 2 weeks. Within that 2-week period, every single time. Days disappear to go to treatment with her, to care for her, to take care of her, to support her, to help my sister out, to just be kind of there as a support team and as a medical decision maker. So all these plans I had for the year, all these plans for what I wanted to do and be and advance and offer this year became a complete zero, because obviously I needed to make some really big decisions and sweeping the table, because I did not have time to do all the things I wanted to do. So you may have noticed over this year that there have been less practices offered, and that has been, I don't even understand how I managed to produce the ones I did. I have no idea. When you're dealing with being a medical decision maker for someone who's having treatment and is in cancer and has other medical issues that need to be also watched, and still being somewhat of a support team for another person, and still run a family and a business and live, you don't have much else left energy-wise to give anything. So I do want to apologize for not offering as many practices and not explaining this. I probably should have started earlier in the year telling the story via video so that everybody kind of knew where I was at and what was going on. But the good news is my mom has finished all her treatments. Her surgery was a success. Her treatment was a success. She is cancer-free at this point in time. She just went back home a couple of weeks ago, and she's there convalescing, taking care of herself, kind of getting back on her feet after a lot of things have changed in her body and in her life and in her health overall. She ended up losing about 60 pounds, so she's kind of figuring out how to live a different body, essentially. What I've learned this year, I've learned a lot this year. I've learned not to be so obsessed with being perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I really want everything to be absolutely right, and I want to not ever stumble over words. And even today filming, I made some mistakes and I was mad at myself for it. I stumbled over some words and I didn't say something quite right, and I thought, this is dumb. Life is short, and that's the way it is. I learned that the things that really matter are my family and the people I love more than anything else. And if that's the one thing I take away from this, is that I want to be as focused on connecting with, supporting, and being there for my family, being there for the people I love, putting as much of my energy into that. And so this year I stepped back from a bunch of things I was doing in the community and with the area I live in. We were on a bunch of committees, and I've stepped back from all of those and said I'm not going to do them anymore, because I really want to focus on the people I care about, right? Supporting them and connecting with them. And I'm drained. I'm essentially drained. So I'm taking some time off in December to see if I can kind of reboot and recover and get my head back in the game and recenter myself. So I'm sorry, but there'll be a couple of practices this in December, but not through the entire month. So I'll be taking some time off. Please enjoy the other 300 and some videos available to you back in January. Hopefully this year, nothing will happen. I'm looking for 2023 to be that year where nothing happens. And if it is, it's all good, right? I'm looking for all the good. During this time, on top of that, my beautiful daughter, who is my office manager, assistant, and social media manager, and all-around rah-rah girl, has graduated and registered for college in the middle of all this craziness toward the end of it. And so my first child is leaving the nest a little bit, so I'm also dealing with that. So I've got a lot going on right now. I am so grateful that the doctors were able to care for my mother, that we found a fabulous medical team, one of the best surgeon in the entire state and one of the best doctors in the United States for her cancer, that she is one of very few in the pancreatic world that pancreatic cancer she has beat. There is no sign of it at all. The chemo was effective and she seems to be recovering. So for that, I am eternally grateful. I've been very lucky to have found these people out of the myriad of people that I interviewed and talked to and begged to get an appointment with. But that's been my crazy year. And it's, I can't even explain how I survived it, but I did. And that right there, I'm patting myself on the back for. So I also learned that I need to spend a lot more time with self-care and recentering myself. I remind everybody on here all the time in practices, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And there were many times that my cup was empty and there was a hole in the bottom and it was rusted out and a lot of things were going on. So I'm hoping to do some repair, some cup repair and refilling over the next few weeks and taking some time to really turn inward and find where I'm at. So if you find that my practices coming out in 2023 are a little different, please know they come from a place of great trauma over the last 2022 and a lot of things I learned about myself and about my mom and about my family and about family dynamics and about cancer and about emotions and a lot of other things I learned this year. I learned so much of which I would rather have not learned, but maybe it's useful. So I think for me, every time I offer a practice, it is from the heart, it is from my soul. I infuse a tiny bit of my soul into each practice, and I hope you feel and see that. But as I change, my practices change. And I teach from who I am and where I'm at, because I think that is the most authentic voice any yoga teacher can offer, is to teach from where they are at in their experiences in the hopes that other people who have had those experiences or feel those things feel that they are not alone, that they are supported, that they feel that connection. I teach best when I'm teaching from my heart. And so I think you will probably see even more of that in 2023. I'm actually trying not to set up any plans, knowing how in 2020 and in 2021 and in 2022, all my plans every January have gone completely away. So I've told myself no plans. And that way I'll just live from the moment, live in the moment, and maybe I'll be a little bit more connected that way. And I also won't be disappointed and thrown for a loop when my plans have to change dramatically in case something happens. So thank you for listening to my crazy ramble for 14 minutes. I know some of you knew this was all going on, and thank you so much for your support and your messages and your suggestions. A lot of those suggestions I ended up using, many of them for my mom to help her get through this time, and many of them were for myself to get me through this time and my family through this time. So thank you for all your support and your sticking with me over this last year and all that's gone on. I could not have done it without all the friends and the support and people emailing and messaging me to let me know they were thinking of me and checking in. So this is the update. I do once again apologize for not telling everybody about this, but I was in the middle of it at the time, and I'm still very emotional about it, and I probably will never get past that. But have a wonderful end of the year, a wonderful winter solstice. I will be spending some time at an at-home retreat with myself, finding some answers to some questions I've raised this year as well. So really settling into myself and what I need and where I need to go from here. Lots of decision making to be made coming up soon. So happy winter solstice, happy end of year. I will see you in the new year.